The first thing I needed to do was get my concept into Fusion 360. Once I was completely happy with my design, I hopped in the car and I ran to Kettle Moraine Hardwoods. Kettle Moraine Hardwoods is in Hartford, Wisconsin. They have a vast supply of hardwoods and they're fantastic to work with.
That's not going anywhere.
Now that we've got the wood we need for this project, let's head out to the shop and get to work. Now that we're out here in the shop, it's time to mill this beautiful walnut into usable lumber for my desk. That process is actually going to take a while. So if you want to watch the entire process, check out this video I already made on milling lumber. If you don't want to watch the entire process, enjoy this wood milling montage. The goal with milling is to plane one face flat, then the other face parallel, then cut one straight and perpendicular edge, and finally cut the last edge parallel to the other edge. So I finished milling all the wood and I've selected the pieces that I like the best for the top. I like these pieces because they're all kind of a consistent color and tone. This piece in the back here is a little bit darker, so I'm going to use that for the skirt and the drawer. I'm going to go ahead and hit these with some water so I can get a feel for what they're going to look like once I apply the Odie's oil. I really like what I'm seeing here, but my top needs to be 28 by 60 inches. That's what my plan calls for, and that's what I've decided is the best size for me. This also gives me an opportunity to rip all my pieces down to the same width and cut out any bad spots that I don't want to keep. So let's rip all these boards down before I glue everything up. The final table is going to be 60 inches long, so I'm going to cut my board 62 inches long right now. That gives me a chance to clean up the ends and something to cut off to make it perfect later. Dang, this is some gorgeous wood. I got the boards positioned how I want them, and now it's time to glue everything up. I'm using only glue, which is plenty strong for a glue up like this. Adding dowels, biscuits, or dominoes can be helpful for alignment, but won't add any significant strength in this type of glue up. I'm using cowls to help with alignment to reduce planing and sanding later. So we're all glued up, and that was super stressful for me, and I'm not really sure why, but I was sweating like crazy. So now that it's all clamped up and pretty straight, we're gonna go ahead and let that sit for a little while. I'm gonna go inside, take a break and cool down, and then we're gonna come back out here and unclamp. Okay, it's been a couple hours. Time to take the clamps off and see how we did. I think overall we did pretty well. Looks pretty fantastic. But now it's time for everybody's favorite part, sanding. I first hit the entire top with my hand planer. Next I use my belt sander with a 60 grit sanding belt. And finally, my orbital sander, working my way from 80 to 120 grit. Once I was happy with the top, I used a saw guide and a circular saw to cut the excess material off the ends. To improve comfort and aesthetics, I cut a chamfer all the way around the top edge. So the top is almost done being sanded. But before I finish the sanding on that, I want to take a break and come in and figure out some of the other details for this thing. So one of the main features to this table are these motorized legs that I got on Amazon. There's a link to these in my description if you're interested. So what I need to do is kind of put these together, lay them on the table, and then figure out where everything else can go. I need to figure out how deep my drawer can be so I can order the slides. And I need to figure out where I can put my inductive charger without a mounting bolt going right through it or something. So the next step is for me to put together these legs. This was the easiest part. I just followed the manufacturer's instructions. So it looks like I put everything together right and everything seems to work fine. And it looks like there's a fair amount of space here that I can put the inside of my drawer. With that being said, let's get this thing out to the shop, put the top on it, and see what kind of space I have for everything else. It looks like the motorized base fits really good in the top. So now I'm going to go ahead and mark out where the inductive charger is, and then mark the hole locations for the legs. I drilled a small hole to align the charging symbol on the top. In addition to the holes and inductive charger, I also marked out the main shape for ease of alignment later, as well as the control panel and the location of the skirt. Using the hole previously drilled, I aligned my charging symbol template and then began to carve out the shape. I started with a sharp box cutter and then squared up the edges with a sharp chisel. Then I filled the symbol with Starbond black CA glue and sanded it flush with the wood. There's a link to this product in the video description. The charging symbol was looking good, so next I determined how thick the top could be where the inductive charger was by using a deck of cards. To router out the recess for the inductive charger, I made a quick router template and temporarily attached it to the top with blue tape and CA glue. Then I used a pattern bit to cut out the shape. I ended up making a quick larger router base as well, so I could router out the middle of the circle. Then, using a guide board, I cut a slot for the charger wire. I tested the inductive charger and found out the recess was not deep enough, so I started to make it a little bit deeper, and then... Well, had a little bit of an accident here. As you can see, there's a hole in my desk, which was literally my biggest fear with this entire project. And it happened. So the only thing I can do now is go inside, take a little bit of a break, regroup, come back out, cut this top apart, plane down this new board, replace it, and move on. The next time you guys see me, I'm going to have all these things redone, and then I'll be ready to pick up by putting in the inductive charger. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. To attach the inductive charger and its wire, I kept it simple and just used hot glue. So after about 4 hours of rework, I finally got it all fixed and the inductive charger is working perfectly. With that disaster behind me, I screwed the top to the base using my alignment marks I made earlier. Oh hey, so the top is all installed. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of finish sanding before I move on to the skirt. The final sanding was done with 240 grit sandpaper. The next thing we need to do is make the skirt for this desk. The skirt is a little bit unusual because it's a 30-degree beveled skirt. I did a test piece and this is what I ended up with. I think it's going to look pretty cool. To do this, I'm kind of treating it like it's crown molding. So I'm using a crown molding jig for my miter saw. If you guys are interested in this jig, I put a link to one in my description. First, I ripped all the boards down to the right width. Then I cut one edge to 30 degrees and the other edge parallel to the first edge. And then cut the ends with either the miter cut or straight cuts depending on where they were used. I've decided I'm going to attach the skirt using an attachment block, if you will, but it's going to have a 30-degree angle cut on it because my skirt is 30 degree. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I used 8 of these blocks to attach the side and front skirt pieces. I used a little bit of CA glue to hold the blocks in place while the wood glue dried. The front skirt was cut into 3 pieces with 15-degree miter cuts for the drawer face. The miter cut should help minimize any gaps around the drawer. I pre-assembled the miter corners using wood glue, CA glue, and blue tape. Once the skirts were dry, I glued the skirts to the top and then nailed them to the mounting blocks with brad nails. While I was here, I also mounted the control panel for the base. Then I repeated these steps for the skirt assembly on the other side. Things are coming along really nicely, and I'd really like to start working on my drawer next. Here's the drawer face. But I can't do that yet because my drawer slides from Amazon haven't arrived yet. So I'm going to move on to the PC mount. The PC mount is really simple. It's just going to be 2 pieces of wood in an L shape with a heavy-duty bracket to help support it. And then I'm just going to use Velcro to attach the PC to the L bracket so it doesn't slide off or move around. I measured the dimensions of my PC and then cut the vertical and horizontal pieces to size. I used a dado joint to join the 2 pieces together. I didn't feel like installing my dado set just for this one cut, so I used my flat curved blade and made a bunch of cuts. Sometimes this is the right way to go if you only have one cut to do. Once I was happy with the fit, I sanded the components and assembled them with wood glue and brad nails. I filled the brad nail holes with wood glue and then sanded so the sawdust would mix with the wet glue to create a nice wood filler. Then for added strength, I added an L bracket to the back side of the PC holder by drilling holes and screwing it on. Before installing this PC holder, I applied Odie Super Duper Everlasting oil using their gray application pad. After working it in really well, I wiped off the excess oil. I drilled some mounting holes so I could attach the holder with screws at the top and then use some heavy-duty 3M Velcro towards the bottom to prevent any unwanted movement. I clamped it down while I checked it for square and screwed it to the base. I love how simple this design is while still adding a nice walnut accent to the base. Next, I need to make a drawer to fill this space. Although it's a small drawer, it's actually pretty complicated because of this beveled skirt. So I decided to make a separate video on how to make and install this drawer in detail. If you don't want to watch all the details, then enjoy this drawer making and installing montage. This bad boy is mostly done. The drawer is in and it looks and functions great. The only thing that's left is for me to give this whole thing a final sand before I finish it and then move it on into my office to set it up. I resanded the entire desk one last time with 240 grit sandpaper. Then I applied the same Odie's oil finish that I used on the PC holder to the rest of the desk. I applied 3 coats to the top with 1 day in between each coat. Thank you for watching my entire video, guys. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to check out some of these other videos and comment, like, and subscribe. Now get out of here. I got some work to do.